What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Now that I've finished some of my restoration and tech segments that I wanted to get through, I thought we'd talk about gameplay for various bingos. I wanted to start with a Magic Screen game. I know I've talked about Bally, and I've sent over a write-up on Bally to Don and Jeff over at the Pinball Podcast. But I wanted to start with the first pick-and-play game. It was called Roller Derby. Roller Derby has beautiful artwork, as has been told to me. I'm no artist, but I do appreciate the art on all the bingos, and Roller Derby is no exception. It's very colorful and bright, and uses interesting colors. There's a dark purple in the back glass, which is unusual. It's a Magic Screen game, which means that while the numbers on the card themselves don't move, the display in front of it does. So, to start with, there are green, red, and yellow lines which indicate the connections between the numbers on the back glass. When you light the Magic Screen feature, which is indicated by positions A through G, you're able to move the screen and reveal colored sections, which are arranged differently than the red, yellow, and green straight lines. So, if you are playing a bingo and you're betting, you want to try and rack up your odds with as few nickels as possible. If you're playing a game just to enjoy it, you want to rack up your features with as few nickels as possible. Well, because Bally implemented logic, which would dictate if you got above a certain threshold on the features, it would make the scores harder to increase. And if you racked up huge odds, it would make the features really difficult to increase. In fact, it would make everything really difficult to increase. So the way that Bally tried to fix this was that it lets you bet your nickel in any way that you chose. So you could bet it to randomly light features and scores just the way that it did in all previous games. Or if you pushed the green button, it would randomly award features. These features include the Magic Screen, increased time tree, the yellow and red super section. These are sections on the Magic Screen which have stripes, and if the super section is lit, it allows you to land 2 balls in that section, and it scores as if you've landed 3 balls there. 3 scores is 4, and 4 scores is 5. Obviously, this is a desirable feature, and it doesn't light incredibly frequently. Beyond that, you have the OK or red letter game, and those are the features. Now, there's also a blue button, which increases the odds. Now, it's important to remember that just because you put a nickel in after you've pressed your red, green, or blue button, red is the default mode where it randomly awards features and scores. Just because you put a nickel in, it does not guarantee that you'll get an increase in your odds or your features, depending on which button you've pressed. It just means it's more likely to light those things, and it kind of simply ignores the features if you're pushing the blue button and the scores if you're pushing the green button. So it gives you a chance to bet your money directly towards something that you want, which had never been the case before it was always a random award. So in roller derby, this is kind of what I consider a classic magic screen game, in that you have the magic screen, you've got your OK game, you've got your super sections, and your time tree, which is a hallmark of any moving numbers feature. With that are rollovers, and if you have those lit, it will allow you to increase your time tree, if the ball rolls over it, of course. So if you have the yellow rollover lit, it will allow you to increase the time tree to before 5th ball. The default is before 4th. So remember that the time tree is the lockout on the feature. So the feature in this case is the magic screen. You're moving it back and forth. Well, it doesn't want to let you do that by default all the way through the end of the game, because then it'd be really easy to score replays in any given section. So it locks you out after you've shot a certain ball, or right before you shoot your next ball. So in the default, you shoot 3 balls, and then you have to position the screen before shooting your 4th ball. If you hit the yellow rollover, or the machine randomly awards you the increase in the time tree to before 5th, you get 1 extra ball landing to position the screen again. If you light the red rollover, or are randomly awarded the next jump, you can move it after 5th. This is the most desirable aspect of the time tree, because using the default 5-ball game, you can move the screen after the game has ended. Now, there's an exception, because there's an exception to everything, and that's if you play the yellow button. The yellow button was introduced to award extra balls. So this puts the machine in a special mode, and when you push the yellow button, the green button, or the blue button, after you've pushed the yellow button for the first time after your game has finished, it will attempt to award an extra ball, and this is a random award. You're always playing for this feature until you push the red button. The red button resets your game and starts over from scratch. So pushing the yellow button awards you up to 3 extra balls. It's really incredibly rare that the machine will award you more than 1 extra ball. In fact, it's so rare that it may just be a bug when I have seen it in the past. I haven't seen it in quite a long time, so it could be that I just play my odds too high, or that there's some kind of bug that allowed that to happen in the first place. With a maximum of 8 chances to get 5 in a row, or to get 5 in a colored section, your odds are actually pretty good. The sections, the largest being a green section in the middle of the magic screen, encompass many numbers. So I believe that green section encompasses 6 numbers at its maximum. And because the screen is repositionable, you can move it to highlight the maximum number of balls that you have locked in the game. Once you've found your winner, after shooting the 4th ball, the game lets you push the R button on the foot rail. The R button will search all the balls which have been locked and try to find winning combinations based on the features that you have lit. In older games, this was automatic. And in one of my earliest episodes, I mentioned how the search disk would wear down over time because it was constantly in motion. In Magic Screen games, the search disk only engages when you push the R button. This releases a latch on a coil and allows the search disk to rotate. Once it finds a winning combination, it steps up a couple different steppers in a Magic Screen game, and then starts counting your replays. And that's a sweet, sweet sound. You hear it at the beginning of the podcast every time, in fact. That was a really minor win on Bounty. 8 replays. So in the first episode, you hear the entire game being shot. And then at the end of the little bumper, you hear me pushing the R button, and you hear a pop, and then a lot of thunks, and then tick, 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 tick. That's it, counting my really minor win for 8 replays. Now, I've mentioned before that I'm not an incredibly skilled player. I do find the games incredibly challenging, and they do keep me coming back for more and more and more. Well, Roller Derby was no exception. So I played this at the last York show. Jeffrey Lawton brought a Roller Derby, and he brought a Sun Valley. And both of those games are just gorgeous. The cabinet on his Roller Derby had been contact papered, which happens sometimes, especially with EMs. They don't fit in with the decor, so they put contact paper on them, or maybe the paint had been really scuffed up. But whatever the case, the game played flawlessly as usual. Jeff Lawton does amazing, amazing work. So I was pretty much rotating between those two games for most of the last show. On Roller Derby, while I was playing Sun Valley, I would try to coach the new folks that came up, and if I saw someone pressing the extra ball button fruitlessly because their odds were all the way at max, I would politely suggest that maybe they should try to start a new game. That didn't always work, but it's worth the suggestion. Now, the reason I'd suggest this is because the game will keep track of where your odds and features are, as I mentioned earlier, and it will become very difficult to get an award for an extra ball, especially once you're over about the 200 replay mark. The game starts to sit up and take notice. Hey, maybe this guy's got something good going on here. We don't just want to give those 200 replays away. So another thing to keep in mind is that when you push the R button and you win some replays, it's going to adjust the reflex unit. Now, the reflex unit is the auto portioning circuit in the bingo. So as you win replays, it steps up and makes the machine tighter, which means it makes it harder to be randomly awarded extra balls, features, and scores. You have to play off credits or put in money in order to ratchet that reflex unit back down to the standard position. Standard position has as many contacts as possible engaged, unless the reflex unit's been tampered with. So I'm going to go into grave detail about the reflex unit in a later episode, but there's a little taste. So, playing Roller Derby, you have your typical Magic Screen combinations. I could sit here and read off numbers to you, but I feel like that might get a little old. So what I would suggest is that you go on Phil Hooper's site at bingo.cdyn.com and look for Roller Derby under the game listing. In that game listing, you can see pictures of the cabinet and the back glass, and you can see what I'm talking about the coloration. Many Magic Screen games play similarly, and that's because you're shooting for the same feature. But remember that every bingo game that you play is completely different. And Roller Derby has an excellent art package. It's also very challenging, like any Magic Screen bingo. And the combination is what really keeps you coming back. Getting those 3, 4, 5 in a row, which of course I've never done. I am lucky to get 3. Or 3 or 4 in a section, or 5 if you're Vic Camp, but not me. Really makes for good gameplay. So I've mentioned before, but I think it bears repeating. Every episode is someone's first after all. The way that I like to play is to bet as little as possible. So the way you accomplish this with pick and play, with those extra buttons, is that you play for scores on your first nickel. So you push the blue button and then drop your nickel in, and it's going to automatically jump you up 2 odds in the red, green, and yellow scores. That's a big deal. If you play the red button, you only get a single guaranteed jump. Everything after that is randomized, but that first jump being double makes a big difference. Continuing to play the blue button, I would do that for 3 or 4 more nickels worth. And then I'd play the game. And the idea being that I want to see if with a 20-cent input, how much of a return I can get. You only need 4 replays on the register in order to win that bet back. So that's the lowest set of odds on a Magic Screen game. 3 in a row gets you 4 replays. Sounds easy enough to attain, and for a skilled player, that's no sweat. With the double jump, that should put you in the 8 replays for 3 in a row. So you've automatically doubled your bet if you only play 20 cents worth. From there, if I've already won some replays, so this is my second game, or embarrassingly my third, fourth, maybe even fifth. Well, at any rate, if I've won some replays, what I will do is play for features. So I do my double jump on the odds first thing, because you're guaranteed them. It just makes sense. It's like a gift. And from there, you want to play the green button. Now, because you've had the double jump, it's going to make it a little less frequent for something like the Magic Screen Delight. But in my opinion, it's well worth it. So once I've done my double jump and I push my green button, and hopefully I get the Magic Screen lit to position D, because that's something I didn't mention, but the Magic Screen lights only up to 4 positions by default. You have to be randomly awarded any additional positions. On roller derby, it goes up to G. So your default position is A, B, C, D. You can move it 4 positions. The additional 3 positions are only granted randomly. Oh, one other feature on this Magic Screen game, and many others, is the blue section. The blue section on roller derby works differently than on most other Magic Screen games. Instead of awarding you a guaranteed amount of replays, say 300 or 600, like it does on my bounty, it awards you green 5 in a row. So if you land all 3 balls in the blue section, you get 5 in a row green win. So that's the maximum odds on the green that you have lit. With an initial double jump, that gets you 96 credits. That's pretty respectable. But to make that even better, there's another feature that will light randomly, where you only have to sink 2 balls in the blue section in order to win those green 5 replays. So again, it acts as if there are 5 in a row. Pretty crazy. Roller Derby is a fantastic game. I met the gentleman who purchased it at the York Show. He was a very nice guy. And he played it for a good portion of the show and had a good time, and I hope he's still enjoying it today. He actually caught up with me not too long ago, so I hope to catch up with him sometime in the nearest future and see how he's doing with roller derby, and I hear he might have some other bingos. It's kind of funny how they grow on you. I started off with 1, and rather quickly now I have 3. And I wouldn't mind having an awful lot more. I see them come up on Craigslist around here quite frequently, and it has to hold my wallet back. As Vic Camp said, when he came on, they go for cheap, and most of them are pretty fantastic players. And I highly encourage everyone to pick one up. It's a welcome addition to any collection, be it bingo only or a mixture of bingo and flipper. Hopefully I'll find one of these roller derbies one day and pick that up and get it going. It's a fun player. All right, well, thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us online at foramusementonly.libsyn.com. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast via RSS on our website, or even on Facebook. Thanks again for joining us, and I'll talk to you next time.